up, fam? Welcome back to a brand new Coast Guard Chris video. But this is not my channel, so I'm gonna leave the channel. Because this isn't my channel, so I'm out of here. I'm still over here, remind me.
I got a lot of questions about boarding team school, so I definitely want to talk about that because that was probably the most exciting part of my Coast Guard career. I want to clarify something. So I had a guy last week who was in his 30s and he wanted to join the Coast Guard and he was worried about like the age. And I was like, yeah, sure, man, like go for it. But you know, thankfully I still have connections in the Coast Guard, and my buddy who's still in, Michael Playson, shout out to you, ET2. He pointed out that when we joined, the cutoff age was 27. So I was like, all right, I gotta do my homework and check out what it is now, because it changes, throughout the year. So okay, right now, if you want to join the Coast Guard, they're accepting ages between 17 and 27. If you're older than that, if you're between about 28 to 32, if there's guaranteed A school, and like I said, for guaranteed A school, they desperately need to fill those positions. They will gladly accept you if you're over the age of 28 to 32. And then for reservists, you could be 17 to the age 39. So keep that in mind. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
So BTM, boarding team school. So okay, when I decided, first of all, you got to be the right unit if you're not the right rate, because certain rates can only go to like MSST units, like MKs and BMs. I think EMs can do that. But as an ET, I couldn't. But I got lucky because if you're on a ship, a big ship, then you can go on the boarding team. So you just got to do extra training. So what I went to the ME on the ship and I said, listen, I'm interested in doing the boarding team. What do I got to do? So he hands me a packet like this thick. He's like, all right, these are your quals.
So just to clarify, if somebody wanted to join the boarding team,
yeah,
they didn't have to be a certain job. They can just be on they have to be on the ship at least.
Yeah, if you're on a 378 or a 410, then you can be on the boarding team. Other than that,
what is that? A 378 or a 410?
So it's the two biggest ships in the Coast Guard is a 378.
Oh, that's like the length of the cutters.
Yeah, 378 foot. 378
okay.
foot, and then the 410, they call them the Wimsels. Those are brand new.
And you can just like apply, like, hey, I want to be on the team.
Yeah.
On the VB.
If you're OS, if you're ET, if you're SK, if you're Yeoman.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. So if you're not on a rate that transitions to like BTM, then you go to a ship and then you can experience BTM life there. So yeah, so I went on the ship, I told them I wanted to be BTM, they gave me a qualification packet, they held classes on the ship, so it was almost like I was striking to be a BTM on the ship. Okay, yeah. I was waiting to get my TAD orders to go to, there's a training facility in Charleston, South Carolina. Now that in itself is worth going on the BTM school, because if you haven't been in Charleston, it's legit.
Oh, I mean, it's tight?
The ratio, yeah, all my friends that went, they were like, oh dude, it's like 7 to 1. I'm like, what?
Nice.
I go out there, sure enough, man. No joke.
Okay.
There's a bunch of colleges, and I think there's like an all-girls college, something like that. Anyways, so the training is really cool. It's really hands-on, so they have actual boats, they have simulation ships, and then they get you all tacticaled out, so it's almost like, it's like the game Call of Duty, man. What?
The Maritime Law Enforcement Academy prides itself on keeping the training as realistic as possible. Everything from using real SIG 229 modified handguns to having 11 different kinds of boats as training platforms.
And we had dummy rounds.
Yeah.
And we didn't know the situation that we were going into. And granted, this is like towards the end of the training, so like they've prepped you to get to this point. And you go in teams of 3 and 4 into this unknown ship, and you don't know that, you just know that there's a threat. They give you some information, and then you just got to go in there SWAT style.
What?
There's all these rooms, you don't know if anyone's going to be in there, and you have to assess the situation because you can't just go in there guns blazing. So yeah, BTM school. So Charleston, they'll go through the training, you'll get the tactical training. I'll have a video kind of attached that highlights it. Definitely check out that video. And yeah, so if you want to do boarding team and the rate doesn't coincide with boarding team type units, just make sure you go to a big ship. And then once you get to the ship, I mean, they're always looking for new people to be on boarding teams. And if you're a non-rate, yes, you can be on the boarding team. So when you go to BTM school, you can become a boarding officer, but if you're a non-rate, you'll just be a boarding team member. And as a boarding team officer, you basically have more of the lead on when you board the boat, and you're the one that kind of talks to the captain and goes over this, safety equipment that they should have. I mean, this is if we're doing fisheries. Drug interdiction, that's a whole different ballgame. I mean, you're just, that's obviously a lot more intense. And the idea is the submersible drug vessel that's smuggling drugs will be taken out by the helo first. That's the ideal situation, and then you'll board. I'll tell you, probably the scariest part about being around the boarding team is not only are you going into an unknown situation onto another ship, but getting off your ship and then boarding their ship, and depending on the what the conditions are, that to me was some of the most scariest times I had, because I mean, you got 20, 30-foot swells. My terminology is lacking because I've been out 2 years is too long.
Yeah.
But you basically do a safety brief, and if it goes over a certain level, then you won't go on board. But 9 times out of 10, I'd say 10 times out of 10, that hardly ever happens. I mean, we've gone into conditions where I'm like, should we be going on this shit? And we do it anyways.
Coast Guard teams face the unknown when they board vessels, so it's important they're prepared to deal with any danger.
I've been a part of a man overboard, where a guy on my team was trying to board this ship and he fell over. So that was pretty terrifying, because if he went under, he would have been killed by the propeller, basically. And the pilot of that ship didn't speak any English. So when it happened, thankfully we had a BTM member in the cabin with him. Is it cabin? Fuck, dude, my terminology fucking sucks, man.
The thing on the
pilot house. So the school in Charleston, not only were they training Coast Guard boarding team members and officers, but they were also, it was basically a training facility for all different forms of government agencies. You had ICE there, and they usually deal with drugs. I mean, you had all kinds of different entities training at this facility. And for the Coast Guard specifically, we'll go over stuff like use of force. You have to get pepper sprayed first. That part sucks, I won't lie. You got to get pepper sprayed because they want you to understand what, kind of like if you're going to be a cop, you got to get pepper sprayed, because if you're going to carry it, you got to know what it feels like, so you'll be less likely to use it all the time. Otherwise, if you don't know what it feels like, you might just bust that thing out every time. So yeah, use of force is important. They'll teach you how to properly handcuff and search
Weapons, firing blanks on the training platforms.
Pat down, search and seizure. They'll actually go through some handcuffing drills where, people try to escape as you're handcuffing them. That's pretty intense. My wrist still hurts from that training. And then, towards the end, like I said, they'll have the tactical training. BTM, you should definitely do it. If you're in the Coast Guard, you get to a ship, I would just go straight to an ME and just go BTM. So post your questions somewhere in the comments.
Leave them in the comments below!
So for Broadus, may the force be with you.